Listen, we're in Firenze. We came here to get away from the heat of the UK because it's only about 39-40 here. I'm thrilled to say that we're with Liam Henderson, star of Serie B and Serie A, star at Empoli. Liam, this is going to be embarrassing here because... Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Come va?
Molto bene.
Molto bene, grazie. Perfetto. One of the things, dear listeners, that totally enchants us at the big interview about Liam is that he's come to another country, to another football culture, and not only thrived, but learned the language. And I think it's become a dominant part of your image here in Italy because Italians, let's face it, Italians are slightly idiosyncratic and strange. Yeah. And you have to move towards them, I think, rather than say, I'm here and I'm Scottish. That if you learn the language, if you show that you quite like the culture, I think they open to you almost in a childlike way. And if you don't, they can be very harsh and critical on you. But you've made a big effort to fit in Italy. You like it here, right?
No, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Obviously, like we spoke before, the first 2 years was a little bit tough. And then obviously COVID came, which made it even tougher regarding people coming out and seeing. But now I've been here 4 years, got the language, got the... know when to drink the coffee, what types of coffee to drink, what to put, don't mix the pasta with the chicken on the plate for lunch and dinner. No, but I'm good, it's good.
We're going to come to all the culinary cultural things for sure, because I feel that apart from entertainment for those listening, you could teach people that are listening an awful lot about how to live the Italian way. But you said something when we were prepping up the interview, and thanks to our wonderful sound and vision assistant today making her debut on the big interview. Well done, Annie. You talked about the E word, that all Scots and definitely all Brits, most Brits are brought up with embarrassment. The idea that if you're on holiday or working abroad or living abroad, the idea that if you make a mistake, it's embarrassing, which is a terrible weight on our shoulders. Yeah. Did you have that when you came to Bari first? And if so, how did you conquer it?
No, like I says, the first 2 years I spent most of my time just listening because I wanted to learn the language. I didn't want to come here, not speak Italian, just know the small phrases. But yeah, of course, you feel a wee, not embarrassed, it's just you don't have the confidence to speak. But now, even if I make mistakes now, I'm not even bothered. I'm not even bothered. Like I says to you before, I can go in the dressing room at half time, full time, and if I feel like I want to say something in front of the whole group, I can say it in Italian. And I became kind of like a translator as well. Like if we've got boys from other countries outside Italy who don't speak Italian but speak English, the coach will ask me to be the translator. And if you told me that 4 years ago that I'd be a translator putting English into Italian, I'd have told you were
just no way.
Mental.
That was pazzo.
Yeah,
pazzo,
exactly.
cazzone. I'm sorry for the bad words, all Italian listeners. I don't even know what cazzo means, but I know it's a bad word to be critical. And pazzone, I think, means a little bit...
Pazzo is crazy, yeah.
But sort of daft.
Yeah.
Well, that suits me fine. That's just about a perfect description for me. What's Italian like as a language then in that case? Because I went to Spain 20 years ago, not really... No, I didn't really have much more than the odd phrase. Yeah. Now I view it as a really lyrical, beautiful language that, okay, I strangle it to death, but I can communicate. What's Italian like as far as you're concerned?
I like Italian because everyone says it's like the language you love. It's a sexy language. So if anybody asks me why I'm punching with my wife, I always tell them I speak Italian. I speak the language you love. So
whoa! This is it's just past breakfast time. There's no way Rebecca would say you're punching.
No, maybe she wouldn't say that, but maybe people on the outside would say.
The language has helped you.
The language has helped
true love
to become more of a catch.
This is lovely. This is lovely. It's the vaulting place to go back to the start, inizio, because when you move from Scotland to Bari. Now, Bari is different from Florence, where we are right now, and Empoli, where you live. Talk to me about the blizzard of impact, because I imagine that going down the southeast, you know, if you go down to the harbour and look out from Bari, you're looking at Albania. Yeah. It's one of the sites in Italy that has suffered most from the crisis we've got going on in the Mediterranean about people who are desperate to get away from horrendous situations and are setting to sea in craft where their lives are at stake. When you went to Bari, what are the list of things that immediately come into your head about the impact of the culture, the heat, the language, the food on a young Scot who was initially a little bit unsure about what he'd chosen?
No, yeah, so obviously I went over, Celtic were quite good, they let me go over like a week before, just to like train, see the place, make sure everything was alright, and then I eventually signed. But I find the people in the south of Italy are very similar to the Scottish people in the fact that they're dead open, welcome and warm. Like I felt at home, but away from home, do you know what I mean?
Wow.
So like in the south it was, the south I feel good. Like
wow.
When I go to the south I always feel good, the South Italy I always feel really, really nice. I feel kind of at home. And even though I didn't speak any Italian, they would try and help me the most.
That's fantastic.
And they never spoke in English, but they would go out their way. There was guys telling me whatever you need, if you need to go to the bank, houses, etc, etc. Massimo Donati, who played for Celtic and Bari, he got in contact before I went and says, I've got a few guys there as well that'll help you out. So no, when I went, they were extremely open, and I don't know, I have a nice feeling in the South Italy.
I'm guessing you're saying that's not because you were a famous footballer. You're seeing that as part of a general cultural trait, a characteristic trait in the south of Italy.
100%. Obviously, I think it may be Italy. You have, I think, football's like religion here. Like when lockdown was on, everybody just wanted the football to be back. Like it's mental. This country lives and breathes football.
You may as well say the phrase, more than Scotland?
More than Scotland, yeah. More than Scotland.
We have to say it.
Which is, I never thought would be possible, but everything's based around football here. Everything. All the people want to talk about is football. I've never seen the country love football so much in my life. The passion in that for the game is mad. So I think it maybe did help that I played football, but for example, when my mum and dad and my brothers and that came, everybody loved it straight away. Everybody felt dead at home. And I came to Italy because of my dad, because obviously he watched the Channel 4 when he was younger.
You didn't see it, I guess, as he bored you to tears with
No, but when he was younger,
Gazzetta dello Football.
For him, he says Serie A was the best league in the world when he was younger.
By a distance.
So obviously I had maybe the opportunity to go down to play in the English Championship, League One, or stay in Scotland, and my dad was like, why don't you try something different? Like your style of football will suit in Italy or a Spain or a Portugal, something different. I think you should try something different, because he says you can always come home. Home's never going to move. It's always going to be here.
That's really good advice.
So I was like, let's go for it. But in the beginning it was tough.
I hate interceding in a good story, but we've all got parents. And when your dad was pushing you to Italy, how was your mum speaking to him? Was your dad in the doghouse for a little while?
Well, I think my mum was alright, because she's obviously, I've got two younger brothers. I think it's when the youngest will then move out, she'll realise, oh no, this is a problem. But because my two younger brothers were there, I think it made it a wee bit easier. But my mum came over for 3 weeks with me. She stayed in the hotel with me for when I first got there, and she helped me move into my apartment when I got there. So my mum took 3 weeks off work to come and stay out with me. And I'd done Rosenborg as well when I was 18.
Of course, you had half a season there?
Half a season.
Where everybody spoke English and the climate was the same as Scotland. So I'd imagine that even though you were younger, adaptation there was possibly a little bit more straightforward.
A wee bit, but it was a nightmare to get to, because you had to do Edinburgh, Amsterdam, Trondheim. So it was a nightmare to get to. So it was difficult, because I never had my mum had done everything for me up to the age of 18 years old. So it was a complete flip side of having to cook, clean, get to go do the messages, get the messages shopping.
It's good for you.
No, it was really good. I grew up fast. In 4 months or so, I became from 18, and I felt like I grew up like rapid when I came back. Obviously, I went to Hibs when I came back as well. So.
But Barry, despite the friendly attitude, I'd imagine there were things where you went, wow, this is outlandishly different. Whether it was, the speed of people's, because it comes at you machine gun fast. So even if you think you've picked up a word, it's buried in 2000.
And with the dialect that they have as well, every region has a different dialect. I find it hard here in Toscana for the dialect that they speak. I find that the hardest. I don't know why they don't pronounce their C's, or it's difficult here.
Have you had a word with them?
No, I've told the woman who organises the apartments and helps with the apartments. She speaks so fast. And I need to tell her sometimes.
But you could be a one-man grammar pronunciation police now that you're here.
You need to slow down a little bit because it's.
How do you say, like, for anybody who's on tourism in Italy, how do you say, slow down, please?
Più piano, per favore.
Più piano, per favore.
Or più lento.
Più lento, più piano. So the Bari dialect, fine, but for example, like, I don't know you well enough, but I have been around a lot. Peter Beardsley's an example. Yeah. Peter Beardsley, we went to the Newcastle training ground to interview him, and he was finishing an 11-a-side game that they have with coaches and ex-pros every week. And he was training there at the time, and he knew that our interview was next, but such a good host he was. We'll go to the canteen, we'll sit you down because you've travelled far, we'll have a little lunch and then we'll talk. Yeah. So he brought out really good steamed green vegetables and a little bit of, I think, turnip or tatties and shepherd's pie. So we're like, okay, very good. And we're like, Peter, are you eating? He said, I'm not touching that muck. Because Peter only eats sweeties.
Okay.
He's a top pro. Has never drunk, won't ever drink. But like, he's addicted to like Toblerones and stuff like that. And he wasn't having any of the specially prepared Newcastle diet for the footballers. I'm not having any of that muck. And I've been with players who are like, foreign food, I can't touch that, and anything that smells different. Now, I'm certain by now you're not like that, but when you went to Bari, there must have been daily tests about, like you say, the coffee, or, they tend to separate the courses out in Italy different from us. What were the challenges?
Because I was always, when I went for a coffee, like for example, I said, let's go for a coffee with my friends, it was Starbucks, Costa, so you're buying like a big massive coffee and sitting for like 2 hours just talking. But here is, if you're like, let's go for a coffee, it's a tiny wee espresso, they shot it and they're like, right, I'll see you later, that's me away.
So it's a 7-minute burst of conversation, a tip of sugar and caffeine,
and then you're away. But
could the sugar and the caffeine explain why they talk so fast?
Maybe, but they drink about 6-7 coffees a day. 6-7 espressos.
How do you sleep?
I don't know how they sleep. But I think more now, for example, when I went back home, I feel like I don't like speaking like this because I say it to my mum and that and my brothers, my friends. But see the difference in the taste back home, even the coffee, the tomato sauce.
It isn't coffee, is it?
It's no coffee. And then see when I came back here and I had just a basic, when I came back for pre-season, I had a basic tomato pasta sauce with pasta, and I was like, oh my God, that's the best thing ever. But it's because I'd spent like a month and a half back home and I was eating good food, but it's just not the same taste.
You talked beautifully about the language. Do you think it's the love they put into the cooking?
Probably. I feel like a food snob though. You know that way when I go back and I'm saying to everybody, no, this is not how you do this, this is not how you do that. Because I've obviously lived in Italy where they appreciate their food, like food, football, and religion is big here.
And the culture in Bari, did you see a city that was struggling a little bit with the problem of asylum seekers? Was that an issue when you were there?
Not really. No.
Good, because really. I know it's a subject that troubles Italy in general, because clearly they've got these open seas that lead from North Africa, from places like Albania.
I think more when I did see that actually was when Brexit happened, and I had to go to like the Questura to get because to stay here now we need this permesso di soggiorno, and I did it in Lecce, so it wasn't too bad. Lecce was quieter, but Rebecca, when she was doing it last year, she says she was nearly in tears when she went to like the Questura, seeing all these people outside with children, etc., crying and stuff. She says she went. She says there must have been about 1,000 people there. When she was but she was lucky enough, she managed to get thing with them because it was done for the club.
Yeah.
But she says the people waiting outside just trying to get this permesso so they can work, she says it was heartbreaking. She was like, she got really upset about it when she came back.
It's something I ask because we live in Barcelona, and there's a monument with an electronic, I have to say, ticker, this month, this year, deaths of people trying to come across, and it's not a subject for a football interview to go into depth about, but I find the hard hearts who are just like, you know, these are bad people and they can't come in, incredible to listen to, because when you're putting to sea and risking your life, there's something badly wrong
it's
in
the
your
fact
life.
that it's 2022 as well. So for me that the stuff that is happening in the world now, it's hard to comprehend for me.
When you played for, we were WhatsApping last night, and I showed you a picture of your first goal.
Yeah.
A goal that you follow up with a beautiful assist, although you were talking some nonsense about corners don't count for assists. You run to Jure Balkovic to celebrate on the touchline, don't you?
Yeah.
And the two of you are dancing a little private dance of, I've done it, I've arrived, there's a goal, it's fantastic. The Bari crowd, although it wasn't a gigantic crowd, was noisy. What was that moment like? Why did you run to him? How did your teammates react to the young foreigner's done it?
It was funny though, because when I arrived to Bari, Jure was signing from Domžale, a team in Slovenia. Jure, he's
Slovenian.
From Slovenia, and me and my dad were sitting in this hotel in Bari, and we saw this young boy, and it was his agent at the time, and my dad was like, I think that's because my dad loves to like look up. And my dad was like, I think that's the boy Balkovic, the left back that's signing. He was like, go up and speak to him. So I was like, okay, I'll go up. I introduced myself, blah 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 blah. And then when I was going to sign for Bari, I was, like I say to you, it was 50-50. I was like, I don't want to sign. Right, okay, I'll sign. I don't want to sign. I want to go home. So I was telling him this every day. So every day it was changing. Jure, I'm sorry, I'm going home tomorrow. Like, I can't stay in the next day. He'd be like, no, I'm staying. So we formed a really, really close relationship because we arrived together. And yeah, I started to play at the beginning. He never played straight away, but then got into the team. So like the goal was like for both of us. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to celebrate with him because we had arrived together. Went through a wee bit difficult times together in the beginning, like everybody does when they move away from home. So, no, it was just to celebrate with him because he was probably the best friend that I made in Italy was probably him. But he's in Turkey now. He's in Antalya.
The joys of travel. You said you struggled. I mean, how difficult was it? What were the things?
I think the realisation is just the fact that I was going to be away from home. Like, I'd be away from my mum, dad, my brothers, Rebecca at the beginning because she was still at university. My friends. To be fair, when I signed, I was obviously happy when I was signing, but when I went back to the hotel room and had the realisation that was me, I was staying here, I had a wee cry to myself, I'm not going to lie. I was like, I don't know if I've made the right decision. I think doubts in my head. But then obviously when the game started and I started to play it, they went away. They went away fast.
Did the club look after you? I'm not looking for criticism, but I suppose I really mean, what did Bari do? Because I've seen many clubs with vastly different ideas about what it is. A lot of clubs, including some very big clubs, think the chase is everything. Persuading the player, spotting the player, pleasing the coach, paying the agents, commission, getting the contract done, and then not like you're on your own, but kind of. Whereas other clubs are all over you.
No, it was a wee bit like you're on your own, but I think that's just the style here because it's been the same. They do the basics to help you, but then you need to do it yourself, which I think is good. Which I think is good rather than being wrapped in cotton wool and having everything done for you, because then you kind of do basic things. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to go to the bank, I need to organise my own car, I need to organise the apartment, which is how it should be. You can't expect everything to be handed on.
A counterpoint though is that majority of your colleagues, if they were young Italians, have Italian agents to do that for them. So also you were ultra on your own.
No, but I had an Italian agent as well, who obviously done the deal with my agent at the time was Eddie Jennings. He's with Joey Barton at Bristol Rovers now.
Okay.
So he's like sporting director there, but Emiliano. Obviously I was helping Emiliano, but he's in Genoa, which is north, and I'm south. We couldn't be further apart. So it was obviously I was calling him on the phone. He was getting in contact with the club, etc., to help out. But I preferred it that way because it made me have to go out and start speaking to people.
I love your attitude.
And trying to speak Italian and stuff like that. So it helped me adjust quicker.
And what about you arrive and you're playing for Fabio Grosso?
Yeah.
I followed Italy in the 2006 World Cup as a reporter, so I was in a training camp. They had the Casa Azzurri in Duisburg. They took over the whole Duisburg stadium and got it all, blue and white and green, and it was a sensational place. And Grosso did exceptional things. I think more particularly the penalty in the World Cup, fine, but the goal
against Germany.
Against Germany.
Pirlo with no look pass.
It was just, and there was no angle, and it's extra time. Germany have never lost there, I think, because it's in Dortmund Stadium. It's a citadel, it's a fortress. The noise, the atmosphere is sensational. And Lippi has put on, counter to, I'm so much older than you, but your dad will remember too, the reason he loved the renaissance of Italian football is that it was totally contrary to all the catenaccio and man marking and sterile football. And Lippi, who'd been a sweeper at Sampdoria back in the bad old days, a libero, and he'd been told, if we see you even seeing the halfway line, never mind crossing it, you'll be fined and dropped. And he told me, we went there with Tommy Burns to interview him, as you know, and he went, if I'm ever a coach, I'm going to do the opposite. So he did that with the Tridente at Juventus, but with Italy in those days, against Germany, I think he put on 5 forwards. It was all in.
But the forwards they had then, you couldn't leave them on the bench, do you know what I mean? There was Totti, Del Piero, Toni.
Instead of going we'll go to penalties, you're like, we'll win this. Yeah. So to be there, and Grosso gets one of the
Do you know what's mad? Do you know what's mad though? See, when I look back, that tournament, I was on holiday in Italy. On holiday in Italy with my family. I remember watching the final in a small bar with my brothers, my mum and dad, watching the final. Grosso obviously scored the winning penalty. And then when you fast forward, when I came to Italy, he was my first manager. I'm not I like the idea there's fate, etc., but do you know what I mean? It's just when you look back at these things, it's strange.
1000% agree with you. I feel that as if you put your gubbins into the mix of fate and kismet in the world, if you throw the dice in there, sometimes the dice will come right back to you with 6s, and it's not like pure destiny, because you have to act. You have to, when you're going Bristol Rovers or Bari, you have to go Bari. So it's like these games where the people that roll the dice and rule their life by rolling the dice, you rolled the dice, and therefore you got Fabio Grosso, who, as a wee man, you're standing watching in the bar on holiday.
I know, it's mental, but he was amazing for me. He was amazing for me when I first came. The style of football that he wanted to play, and the way
Talk us through him a little bit.
He put me straight in the team, straight in the team, which I found no strange. But I was like, maybe he's going to give me 2 or 3 weeks to get adjusted. But no, he threw me straight in the team. And the director at the time, Sean, who's for me is a top director, that actually brought me to Bari because he's seen me in the youth league with Celtic and some Scotland games that he wanted to.
Well, you must have really stood out.
I think so, but I feel like I'm appreciated by the Italian people. It's hard to understand, it's hard to explain, but I feel like I'm appreciated by the Italian, the people who watch football, the fans, the journalists. I feel like I'm appreciated a lot for the way I play here in Italy. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Maybe in Scotland I was playing good and stuff, but I didn't feel like I got I don't know how.
We as a nation, in my opinion, so I'm not putting words in your mouth, we still don't appreciate when maybe there's an on-field strategy that might be more thoughtful, maybe a little bit more constructed, a little bit slower. We have changed, I think, from lump it in there, run hard, bash into people, and then pick up the scraps, which we became for a little while. Yeah. And from my taste, when I watch you, there's vision left and right, there's vision in front of you. It's a highly responsible role you play, whether you play right midfield or more centrally, or if you start right and the team moves up and you move in, you have to have vision, you have to have patience, and it's for my taste, it's a much more, I think it's a more intelligent brand of football. And I think also in Scotland, I don't think in the media particularly we're trained, we don't often write about football. Yeah. We write about football as theatre, so we can get back pages where people are arguing and pointing at each other. There's not a lot of football analysis in Scotland, whereas here, it's perhaps a sickness. They're overly analytical, and therefore I can see why what you do, what you want to do in a team, what you think your role is, what responsibility you'll take, how you use the ball. I understand that it fits better.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm not saying I'm playing for the top clubs in Italy, but the fact that I feel appreciated by a nation that's won 4 World Cups, like I feel the appreciation. So the general public who watch football know what they're talking about here. They live and breathe football. So the fact that I'm appreciated, being a Scots person playing football in Italy, I'm appreciated by, I don't know, a small part of this country makes me feel amazing. Like it's a good feeling. It is really a good feeling, and I'm glad that I've came and played and stuck it out. Obviously, when there was difficult times as well.
And Grosso took you with him, but we've got socios who've supported us, guys who've been, by guys I mean men and women who've been with us right from the start, who are like season ticket holders. Yeah. And we've asked them for a couple of questions. Okay. I think this one fits now from Alan Brown, and I think you've hinted at it. Did you go to Italy, Liam, with the intention of staying so long? And if not, was there a specific point when you decided to go all in, learn the language, explore the culture, and stay?
Well, that's a good question, because after the 6 months at Bari, when I'd done really well, they obviously went bankrupt. So I became a free agent. And there was a wee bit of small bit with my agent about maybe coming back home to England, because I'd done really, really well. And I was like, I've only been here 6 months, it's too soon. It's far too soon to go home. It's too soon for me to go home. So I was like, Grosso went to Verona, and I was like, you know what, he liked me at Bari, he played me every game, I'm going to follow him. Because I was still young as well, still only 22. So I was like, nah, I'm going to follow him, I'm going to stick it out. I don't want to just jump ship at the first sign of no adversity, because
I like what you're saying though. Who phoned you? Did you phone Fabio? Say, Fabio, I'm coming with you, or did
No, he phoned me. He wrote me up, to be fair, he wrote me a message, I think, so I could Google Translate it and put it in English so I could understand it. He wrote me a message when obviously Bari went bankrupt, which it was obviously devastating for the fans, etc., because they had to start from scratch. But they're back in Serie B now, and hopefully next year they can get up to Serie A. But yeah, I think maybe that the fact of being here for only 6 months and then going to Verona, I think that, and then after COVID, after lockdown, because obviously I came to Empoli on loan in the January, then lockdown happened in the March, and here it was tough. Like in Italy, it was like really, really tough. I was here alone for like 60 days in an apartment, and then...
It was proper lockdown, wasn't it?
Proper lockdown, you couldn't leave, you had to go to I was lucky enough, I lived above a supermarket, so I could literally walk down steps, go in and get my food and walk back upstairs. But I'd done 63 days by myself, with basically no human contact apart from the women at the supermarket. And I says, after I'd done my loan spell at Empoli, because we restarted in July, I says to Major, I'm going home. I was like, I don't care where I go, I want to go home. I was like, get me home. I can't stay here any longer. I can't especially if we don't know when this is actually going to end. So I was like, I want to go home. I was like, I'll take so much less money. The money's no bothered about money. It's never been a motivational thing for me about money. I was like, just get me back home. And then he was like, Emiliano, who's been really good for my career, was like, Liam, just relax. Go home, take a deep breath, go on holiday, come back, and then we'll discuss it. And then obviously, he was like, right, I think you should stay here. And I was like, right, okay. He was like, right, we've got Lecce here who are willing to pay money for you. When clubs are in financial meltdown, they're willing to pay around €1 million for you, so it shows you they want you and it shows you're still appreciated here. I was like, right, okay, let's go, and ended up going to Lecce.
We can't jump to Lecce before we talk a little bit about Verona, because I spent a lot of time looking at your matches, and it was joyful to watch, particularly because Grosso takes Maroni. Two of you were sent off together the previous season. Beautiful. It was you that gave him the assist in that game when he scored for Scotland. 2 red cards. Takes Balkovic. I think he takes Sisi Karamoko. And every goal you score that season is in a 2-1 win. which is very nice. And, you know, there's one that's a beautiful dummy by Di Carmine and Traore, and that was very nice. But there's one, where do you score the goal where it's the best free kick in the history of world football?
Against Perugia.
It's from about 40 metres
But I
out.
played, you know that.
Tell us the story about...
No, that season I played against the goalkeeper for Perugia was Gabriel, who is from Brazil, and then when I went to Lecce, I played with him. So I scored twice. I scored twice into him that season.
Yeah, home and away.
Home and away.
Yeah, that's right.
But the home one was me and Yuri, for example, because Yuri's standing over the ball. I let him hit the first free kick, and I was raging because he skied or whatever. I was like, Yuri, you're not touching this one. I'm hitting this one. But I practice, like it's something that I practice, corners, free kicks. I think it's important for me as like a midfielder to have different armour in my locker, to be able to hit set pieces, hit free kicks. I think it's important. And I'd say I've got good technique to do so. So, that free kick was a nice free kick. Not the best free kick I've scored though, but it was nice.
Get away.
No,
Well, I haven't seen the other one.
I scored one for Hibs against St Mirren.
I need to go and look for it then.
One
But
for Hibs against
well,
St Mirren.
I can't contest this. I can't argue with my guest.
Right.
But no, I mean it's about. I mean it's 35
Yeah.
plus meters. It's a long way out.
Yeah.
But also it's such a pure strike because the keeper's never getting there.
Yeah.
It's top corner, but the trajectory is flipping absolutely gorgeous.
No, I know. To be fair, I enjoy like staying out after training and practicing free kicks. It's something that I do after training a lot, and it's a good laugh as well. You get a good laugh out.
Have you always done that?
Always. For like 8 years old, I've always hit free kicks.
Natural or taught by your dad to do extra?
A bit of both. A bit of both, to be honest. Because there's a good story. For example, my dad was always one where you need to have the right attitude. He was never one for mistakes. Mistakes happen, like blah blah blah. But he says if you're not applying yourself,
mistakes happen.
If you're not applying yourself, then I don't see you applying yourself. Because obviously him and my mum were running me all over the country 4 nights a week. Do you know what I mean? 4 nights a week for training and on the weekends with my brothers as well. So it was tough, and money wasn't like flowing in either. So they were spending a lot of money on me and my brothers. So for example, if I played a game when I was young, and we always laugh about this now, and I'm glad I done it. Like it's turned me into the man I'm supposed to be with the vows, etc. So if I didn't apply myself, when I came back after the game, I'd have to wash his car. I'd have to wash his car. So I remember there was a spell where I was at that teenage age, about 14, 15, where you know that way where sometimes you can be a wee bit like, I am the man, etc, etc. So there was maybe, I must have washed his car about 12 or 13 times that year after the game. But I'm glad he done that though, because it puts in, if you're not going to put in the effort and apply yourself properly, then
what had he seen that he didn't like?
I don't know. His big thing was I always had to get on the ball. So if I wasn't working hard enough to get on the ball, and if I wasn't tracking runners, if I was being lazy off the ball, etc, etc. But he was always one for, you need to go in 100%, apply yourself 100%. And he could always tell when it wasn't the case. Do you know what I mean?
Your dad's coming out of this interview pretty well, actually. He's going to have to be a future guest.
I know.
So, you know, when you look at your trajectory, which is Bari and then Verona, which Joe Jordan always said.
I met him,
Joe always said it was the most beautiful city in Italy. I don't know what you thought of the club or the city, but
no, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Like I can't speak highly enough of every club that I've played for in Italy, and the people behind the scenes, etc, etc. They've all been amazing, amazing. Which I think in football is hard, because football there is a lot of bullshit that goes on
non-stop,
like constantly.
There's a few industries where people lie to you as much as within football.
Whereas I've not had that experience when I've been in Italy, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I've stayed as well, because everybody's just, to me has been
quality.
Yeah, very, very good.
And in Verona, was there a bit of an impact that they had another Scot after Joe had played there, or had people kind of forgotten Joe?
No, he's a legend.
I hope so.
He's an absolute legend.
Guest on this series.
Legend. I listened to that.
He's quite a guy.
I listened to that interview. It was amazing. But I met him at one game. We played Salernitana. I met him, so I got to speak to him in that before the game. It was amazing. But like, I always speak about this as well, because I was also the first player to come and play in Italy for 35 years. And like the last guy to play in Italy was Graham Souness, which is obviously he's an absolute legend.
He's in my all-time World 11.
Legend. And it was funny when I always see my name, like, because it popped up, it was obviously like Souness, Joe Jordan, Dennis Law, and then me. And I was like, how can I even be in the same bracket as them? Do you know what I mean? And there was one when we got promoted with Verona, some guy on Twitter done like a picture, and it was like them playing in Italy and then a picture of me with the Verona strip, and I was like, this is mental.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It was nice.
I mean, three absolute greats. Dennis comes from my city, and I spend a lot of time with the trust that works on his behalf to change things in the streets in Aberdeen, and Dennis would be really proud of you. I mean, without question, massively proud of you. And he's older now, and I don't know if you've spoken to Suey about it, but after this interview, I will, because I think he's somebody who also felt more appreciated, perhaps, for his skills, not by the devoted fans when he wins things, but I asked him about Serie A, and he said it was easier because it was slower. Now that's those days, not now.
No, now it's.
But I said, listen, when you went at that age, and you went into this division where things were, you know, like your dad said, it was the best league in the world. He found it less demanding because he had more time on the ball. Which isn't the case now. I
find training harder here though. They train like animals here.
Tell us a little bit about what's demanded of you.
Just the fact that the running and double sessions, and the fact that here is the manager's in charge. Like the manager's in charge, whereas my experience back when I played in Scotland, albeit I was young, I was really young, so I never had a say, but you could feel like the players controlled the dressing room a little bit. So like obviously the manager would be in charge, but if the players felt like, maybe it's better to do this, the players could go and say to the manager, look, maybe today we can take it a wee bit more easy, or we need a day off here, blah, 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 blah. But here that's not even
don't
up
even
for
think
discussion.
about that.
It's not even up for discussion. What the manager says, goes. Do you know what I mean? And you couldn't say to the captain, could you go and speak to the manager? He'd be like, no, it's not how it works here.
It's interesting because clearly, you know, over time the Italian system has functioned and worked, and there might have been a time in Scotland, there was in England, where managers were more all-powerful, but the more I interview people, the more I learn that in some areas, some eras, one thing is not so good, and then you change it in other areas, it is. So for example, and also it's how it's applied. So for example, I'll often find elite coaches with elite players. So you had good players around you, say at Celtic that you're describing, characterful players who maybe just felt we can share control with the manager. I've seen superb coaches who will listen, who like that dialogue between the group or the leaders and me. I feel secure enough that I'm going to let the occasional piece of guidance come from them. And I've also spoken to top level coaches who'll be like, yeah, you have to treat certain players differently. Now, that's not opposed to what you're saying. But it's funny to me how sometimes it could be portrayed as a weakness if a coach is a listener to his group, and sometimes it's a strength because the group was right and the coach was like, oh, I'm glad you said that, and therefore, I don't know if it's one less journey or one less training session or we'll go 3 at the back or whatever it is. Sometimes that dialogue is useful. Sometimes that total control that you're talking about, that you've experienced, is vital for order and behaviour. I don't know.
No, I agree with you there. To be honest, I prefer it when it's, you know, who's
the boss.
Because sometimes it can create like it can create problems as well sometimes. Because you know what footballers are like, they think I'm always right.
And some of them, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I prefer when it's the manager's in charge and what he says goes. Because there's no grey areas, it's black or white.
Who's been the best you've had since you've been here? Or what are the differences is a better way to say it?
To be honest, all the coaches I've had have been really good here. I've got a lot of respect for all of them. Obviously, Andrea Zoli last year was the first coach to trust me at the highest level. So obviously for me, he's been important. Juric probably, Torino. I only played like 4 times for him, but he changed my whole outlook and mentality on football, about how you need to work. Especially if you're a kind of underdog and you're playing against the bigger boys. You need to run 10 times harder, 10 times faster than them, because obviously they've got more talent. It's normal when you're playing against Juventus. But if
So you need to find that equilibrium again by working harder.
That balance by working.
But you can't have been short of a work ethic given all the car cleaning that you had to do.
No. That's something that when I play the games and they use the GPS and the data and stuff, I'm always top runner, top 3 runners, distance covered, etc., etc. So for me, that's not.
So Juric was what, doing finessing it so that you were applying that effort.
Yeah, but the fact I didn't really play under Juric. I played the first 2, started the first 2 games, then didn't play for whatever reason. To be fair, the team were playing amazing. He told me that the team are playing amazing. I can't put you in. When they start playing bad, there's maybe an opportunity for you there, which I was like, right, that's perfect. I would rather he was like that with me. He says, I love your attitude, etc. in training. But we had a good group in Verona then when he first came. Because even the boys who weren't playing as much, because he basically stuck with his team. The 11 that played the whole year because they done well. But the boys, like the 11, 12 boys who weren't playing were going 100% every day in training. He said thank you. He said thank you everybody for the
that wins you things. If everybody, because you're pushing the guy's got your position, you're pushing him to the maximum because you're giving it all.
100%.
Sensational.
But he changed my mentality on when you're playing for a smaller club against the bigger boys, like the elite clubs, that you need to make up for the not as good ability-wise in other areas.
Well, that's spilled over into this season's work for Andrea Sola, because this season's been sensational. But before we go to it, Ian Thompson has a pretty rudimentary question, which hopefully you'll find difficult. Who's the best player you've played against in Italy?
Pellegrini, from Roma.
Whoa! But it's that clear cut?
Yeah.
Explain us.
I'd like to say we're a wee bit similar in the way we want to play, the style. So, for me, I've always appreciated midfielders who, they're no rapid, they're no quick, they're no huge, they're no like physically a monster, but they appreciate the ball, the way they touch the ball, like the way he controls it, the way he passes it. And when we played Roma this year, we played them at the Olimpico. For me personally, I know everybody's got opinions. You've got Barella, Milinkovic, Savic, there's top Dybala, there's top players everywhere here. But for me, as if he's asking me who's the best player I've personally played against, Pellegrini.
How close were you in terms of pitch duties?
Yeah, we were. I was playing 10 and he was playing 10.
So you're having a similar influence, but how many times were you coming into...
A wee bit, because he liked
your mirror images, really.
He liked to go everywhere, a wee bit like myself. Like, I like to go and find the ball as well. But for me, he was the best. Like, he reminds me a wee bit like De Bruyne, like the way he passes the ball, the way he shoots. No, it's easy. I've always, if anybody asks me who's the best player, I say Pellegrini.
Wow.
Just the way he moves and stuff as well. Like, it's nice to watch. It's like there's an elegance about how he plays football, which I like.
Elegance is good.
Yeah.
Which players maybe have surprised you, have caught your eye? Which didn't you see coming? Or maybe are there some whose attitude or behaviour and maybe gamesmanship have disappointed you?
I liked Roma as a team. Even though I liked Roma how they played with Zaniolo, Abraham, Pellegrini. I liked Roma how they played. I found Roma really, really tough to play against. Barella's good, Milinkovic, Savic.
Barella's super, I think.
Luis Alberto also I like a lot. I like him.
Lazio, no?
Yeah, Lazio. Yeah. And then you have Milinkovic, Savic.
Yeah, you talked about Milinkovic, Savic, who is perpetually quoted as being a target for other big clubs, but keeps on staying at Lazio.
He's top.
Special player?
Top for me.
What are the things in his game?
He's massive. He's huge. He's physically incredible. With the ball at his feet, he's amazing as well. And
so to get in about him, you have to be careful not to bounce off him. You have to be canny about where you...
He scores double-digit goals every year from midfield. For me,
he'll never have hit a free kick like that one again. In fairness,
I don't know.
I say that because I've seen it.
He'll have a good highlight reel as well, to be fair to him. But no, he's taught Barella, Milinkovic, Pellegrini. I like midfielders though, because I'm a midfielder.
Yeah.
I like midfielders, so yeah.
To what extent are you properly protected in Italian football? Because there was a long time where it wasn't just a physical league, but like defenders were very, very canny, very streetwise, and clearly during our lifetimes, although mine has been longer than yours, there's been refereeing scandals. To what extent, when you go out on a pitch, do you think, yeah, this is going to be a game where I know it's going to be ruled with fairness?
Obviously, when you go away at the bigger teams, but it's the same in Scotland.
Not much difference.
It's the exact same in Scotland. It's the exact same. The big two get the majority of the decisions, no matter. There's no doubt about it. So hopefully, VAR's helped here. To be honest, VAR's helped. So hopefully VAR will help in Scotland as well.
Because referees are more responsible.
More responsible, and the fact that if they make a mistake, it's there to be seen.
And in this culture, they love to analyse mistakes, don't they?
Exactly. No, you're right. But yeah, VAR's helped us. VAR's helped, I think, for the smaller teams get, like, for example, we've got penalties against Inter Milan in the San Siro, which before maybe wouldn't have happened. But yeah, no, it's
what I'm talking about is that, for my opinion, like, so for example, I've been coming to watch Italian football since the early 90s. Matches, interviews, training sessions. So you learn a little bit about the idea, and the idea here is very much about win at any cost.
Yeah.
Over my lifetime, that's changed. It used to be scandalous before what went on. Now, would the type of tackles, the type of treatment you get on a pitch be identical to anywhere else?
It's the same as anywhere else. For me, that's what I was actually going to say that I forgot to speak about. The defending here. See, like, the space is like kind of creative player, you don't get much space. So when you get the chance to make the pass, you have to make the pass. Because maybe you're only going to get one, or you're going to get two a game.
So have you noticed your decision-making sharpening up to where it's at a razor edge?
100%. And when I came to Italy, for example, in Scotland, when I would line up a shot and I would fake it, 9 times out of 10 the defenders, I'm selling him. Do you know what I mean? He's thrown his cell at the ball, and I'm just imagine, like, check him. But here, when I tried it, I was like, why are these defenders why are they not taking the bait?
But I think you're talking about Serie A now more, because that goal I mentioned against Perugia, where the cross comes from Faraoni, it's dummied by Di Carmina and Traore. You take the ball and you kind of dip a left shoulder going right, and the defender has gone that way, and you bury the shot off your right foot.
That was maybe one time out of 100. Because I asked the defenders here, I'm like, why are you no gambling? Like, tell me why you are not gambling when I'm faking to shoot so I can create myself a wee bit of space. He says, from the age of 4, we've been told don't go to ground. From like 4 years old, like the boys I'm playing with, they're saying from 4 years old, when they're getting coached, don't go to ground.
So jockey for longer than we would ever be told to jockey.
Yeah.
Keep yourself in a position whereby you're reading what's happening rather than taking the first dummy that's sold to you.
So what I've tried to do is now, if I'm playing, I try and shoot through the legs of the defender.
Okay.
So that's rather than faking,
Yeah.
I'll try and shoot through his legs. Or if I'm trying to, like, play a cross or a final pass, I'll try and play it through his legs, because I know he's not going to stretch. I know he's not going to.
But you might just change position a little bit.
Yeah. So that's me trying to.
We must never have this translated into Italian, so they see your secrets. Finalmente, i segreti di Liam. So the difference in Serie A football, Liam. I mean, because Empoli, you finished mid-table more or less. It's a very good season.
Yeah, very good.
But some of the results are fantastic. If you look at in the cup. 3-2 after extra time to the reigning champions. Yeah. You beat Juventus. Mm-hmm. You beat Napoli home and away. Yeah. Yeah. You have to achieve that. You have a pretty special team.
No, we've got a really good team and a young team as well. But what I find at Empoli is we have very, very good players, but there's no egos. There's no guys that think they're superstars. They think they're better than other boys in the dressing room. We're all in the same mindset, which is, for me, is really, really good. And Empoli, to finish 14th was unbelievable for Empoli. Obviously with Sarri and stuff, I think they managed to get into Europe when he was the coach. But going into this year's just again about consolidating ourselves and remaining in Serie A, and then fingers crossed we can keep building year after year.
Which was the big result, because you win at Juve early on. Yeah. Which is a rarity for any team. You spoke really nicely to Johnny Northcroft about the importance of Maradona what was the Sao Paulo Stadium. We beat them at home as well, score there. Yeah. I don't know how much Fiorentina are thought of as local rivals. It must be knocked over a bit. You beat them. Yeah. So separating out for you, for the fans, for the club, which of those massive performances last season would have counted as the most significant?
For me, the most significant was Napoli at home, because that win, we were going through a torrid time. We couldn't buy a win. Yeah. After January, we couldn't buy a win, and that game saved us. That actually not mathematically, but more or less kept us in the league.
You knew already, and that was with, I don't know, 10, 12 games to go, ballpark, or have I got that wrong?
I don't know, maybe less I think. Okay. Because obviously we played in Napoli, and then I think the next game must have been Salernitana at home, and they were fighting for their lives. They done a great escape though. All credit to them, they were brilliant in the last, from January onwards. But yeah, Napoli at home secured safety.
What was the atmosphere like that day?
That was a big one. Amazing. It was my birthday next day. Mum and Dad were there.
And you scored?
Mum and Dad were over for the game, and I scored. And Ewan scored the day before for Hibs as well. So it was a great weekend.
What
it was
an
amazing weekend. It was an amazing weekend.
And the feeling of, again, I need to go back to it. You made it sound as if your dad really idolised Maradona, and therefore that first win, which was the earlier part of the season, in what's now the Maradona Stadium, was Sao Paulo. Again, you're in the south, you said you always feel good in the south. Try and describe that day about getting there and the atmosphere, and I don't know if there were nerves. Presumably there were.
A wee bit, it's nerves for me, I get a wee bit nervous, but the most nervous I get is when I watch my wee brother play. When I'm watching on the iPad on Hibs TV or whatever, I can't speak to anybody. So I don't know how my dad feels about having to watch my wee brother first, then me after. He's going to. I don't know how his ticker's still ticking, because honestly. But no, I FaceTime my dad straight away. I was like, Dad, see the Napoli game, obviously we won, etc., etc. But you would have loved to have been there, because for the warm up when they came out, they had on the big screens Maradona, you know the famous video with Life is Life.
Ball juggling, laces out.
With that Life is Life.
Fantastic.
That was, and it was like for half an hour, 45 minutes.
And it's just this wee square package where if you came to football for the first time and you'd never seen it before, you might look at him and think, well, maybe he's just not a circus performer, but he doesn't look like a massive athlete. If you came to it clean, looking at it there, he's got big bushy hair. He must have had a high voice, with his shorts are pulled right up. Unbelievable. Laces are out, I think, as well. And the ball goes into orbit, and you have to wait for it to come back into shot as the music's playing. Live is Life.
No, it was amazing. That was the best part of the experience for me, was coming out and seeing that video, because I've seen that video so many times on Twitter, on Instagram and that, but actually being in the stadium named after him.
Treading the same grass.
Yeah, but that's what I always say. I always think to myself, I'm so lucky, because all these, like me, from being from Broxburn, which not many people know where Broxburn is, to be like gracing the same stadiums and the same grass as all these greats. It's like something when I'm older, I'm going to be, I don't look at it too much now, I appreciate it, but when I'm older, I'll 100% be like, no, that was unbelievable.
Have you kept mementos? Have you swapped jerseys?
To be honest, I only swap jerseys with the boys I play with. So I try and collect the national teams, all the boys that I play with. So when they go away with their national team, I've got South Korea, Australia, Slovenia, Sweden, New Zealand. I'm going to get a Polish one from Zurkowski, who I played with last year.
Nice.
Uruguay, we've got a young boy on loan from Inter Milan from Uruguay. I love Uruguay as a country, like when they play, love them. Because they're similar size to Scotland, but
they've got an Italian mentality and compete and win.
And they're producing.
You talked about the Italian defenders from 4 o'clock. They're having 4 years old. They're having it dinned into them. Don't dive, stay on your feet. But the Uruguayans, I've spoken to so many. Luis Suarez, Araujo's at Barcelona, and they talk about this thing. I don't know if the Uruguayan it's talked about baby football. So they call it baby football, and they play. So baby football is about 3 or 4 years old, and it's competitive.
Yeah, okay.
And they're as demanding of these little kids at 3, 4 and 5 don't come home if you lose and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
no, but all the South, that's strange as well, because see me, I get on all the South American players I played with, I gravitate towards them a wee bit. It's like I always feel like I'm in their group. Like if there's been Brazilians, like 2 or 3 Brazilians, I'm always gravitating towards the South Americans. And we've obviously got this young Uruguayan on from Inter Milan, Satriano Martin, who for me is going to be top. You need to watch it for him this season. After 2 days, me and him are like, even on the pitch as well. Like I told him, I don't need much training sessions with you. I know where you're going to run, and he knows where I'm going to run. And I say that for me is amazing.
Okay, big test. How?
I don't know.
No, we need to work harder than that. Because that's the magic of football. You don't share a culture, you don't yet share a language.
No, Italian. We communicate Italian.
I bet you haven't worked a lot together,
No.
and you know what he's going to do, and he knows what you're going to do. How?
It's just, I think it must be from young, about how we see the game, how we play football, how we've been taught how to play football, how we've
How do you see in him? How do you immediately see in him? Like you see 2-3 training sessions, you're like, what?
I don't know, straight away.
How does it click? Because that's magical.
No, it is. It's nice. But I've had it with like, there's certain players I've had it with, and he's won straight away.
Go on, tell me.
Pinamonti I had it with last year.
Okay.
I created quite a few good chances for him. There's a young player, Baldanzi here, who's also going to be good. Very, very good player. I have it with him. I have it with my young brother. We've done a few training sessions at Celtic together in the first team, which was amazing. The only thing I want to do now is play in the same team as him.
Hopefully in the national dark blue, as far as I'm concerned.
Hopefully, that's what he's saying.
The sooner the better.
That's what he's saying to me. That's what he's saying. So fingers crossed for that.
Sure.
But it is magic. Like it's hard to put into words. But I says to him yesterday. It's funny we're speaking about this. I says to him yesterday. I says, Mark, I know where you're going to be without even looking. Like I just know. I know where you're going to be.
But that in such a demanding environment as this, that adds a lot, because in tight spaces, if you already know, you don't have to look. There's no tell. You're not giving your marker any tell about what you're going to do next. So that just adds a couple of split seconds for you.
And I says to him as well yesterday or the day before, I says, I'm going to try and get you, I'll try my best to give you some assists for you to get to call up for the World Cup. Because he's like, I've got the World Cup in November. So I was like, no, I need to try and help you. If I can, I'll do everything I can to try and help you get to
I'll do the same. I'll be on Twitter talking about it in that case. I don't want to leave Italy behind, but what we're going to do is just carefully say to you, how much have you changed, and in which ways has the country of Italy been good to you? Good for you, I suppose.
I think the appreciation for food is without saying. I think my diet's improved as well. I think you see the Italians, they live long lives, and my agent tells me it's the olive oil that they put on everything. They put olive oil on everything. No, I became much more grown up. I grew up really fast. I have an appreciation for home, which I never had before. Like I have a big appreciation for home and the people of Scotland. Like anytime I'm out or I'm in Italy and I hear a Scottish voice, I'll try and go up and be like, have a conversation like, oh, what you see your holiday, blah, 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 blah. I became a good tour guide. Anybody who wants to come to Italy, I'm always the first, where should I go? And I tell them, you need to go to Puglia. Because Puglia is like a hidden gem. Not many people know about Puglia. And for me, it's the best.
If anybody's listening, that's Puglia, right? Puglia.
Yeah, the best. That's where Bari, Lecce, Gallipoli, Otranto. The new James Bond was filmed. You know that city where it's like all stone.
Okay.
It was filmed in Puglia as well. But it's a hidden gem.
Okay.
I think they've started to do flights from Edinburgh to Bari direct, which is good.
Come on.
But yeah, I think the most thing that's taught me, like I said, is the appreciation for home. Appreciation for home, because obviously the years are going past quicker and quicker. My mum, dad are getting older, grandparents are getting older, brothers are getting older. So when I go back, I want to spend all my time with them. And I have like appreciation for everything they've done for me from the age of like 3-4 years old.
It's clear from this conversation that they have done pretty special things. So you've been lucky in terms of their vision, their confidence, their willingness to push you.
Yeah.
the disciplines, something, the innate talents, personality and football skills that have been inherited. You have been a lucky man.
No, very lucky, and I appreciate it. Like, I'm in a very, very fortunate situation.
Before we go to Sunshine on Leith, talk about the food a little bit, because it is, you got quite animated in describing it, and you're talking about the separation of the antipasto. I don't know.
They don't really like meat being on the same plate as pasta and stuff like that.
Anybody explain why?
No, not really, because a funny story again. I had my friends, like my boys that I went to school with since I've known since 5, 6, there's 4 or 5 years, and they came to Verona for a game, and we were sitting in. I lived in Pescara del Garda, which is on Lake Garda. We're sitting in a restaurant, and the waiters came over. He's ready to order, and everybody's saying their stuff. And I've got my friend Mark, who's like that. Could I have chicken arrabbiata? And the waiters looked at him like, what is chicken arrabbiata? He's like that. Can you make me an arrabbiata dish? Cut up the chicken and then mix it in. And the guy's like that. Oh my word, I've never heard that in my life. I'll go and ask the chef. And they done it for him, but they were like, you need to learn your food as well. They says to him.
But why? Listen, Mark may not be listening, but that doesn't sound all that mad.
I know.
To a Scot, it sounds quite creative, but they really are like,
no,
I've never heard of anything like this.
They like to do your antipastas, like your cold meats, you know, like your prosciutto crudo, salami, etc. first. Then they'll do like a pasta, risotto, whatever for your second, and then the last is the meat, where it's fish, chicken.
It feels, when you say it out loud, quite a lot.
Oh, it is. For example, you go for team dinners and that, you're there for about 6 hours. 6 hours, honestly, it's the slowest thing ever. The slowest thing ever. When you go for team dinners, it takes hours. And you're right, like they'll say, right, come for 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and you don't start eating till like 10:30. So now I always eat before I go. Because I know I'm going to be starving. Because I eat my lunch at 12, and if I don't eat till 10:30, 11, I'm going to be starving. So I always have something before I go.
But the breakfast, dinner and tea, which is what we were brought up in Scotland with, that's all gone, that's all gone.
Yeah.
So the patience to wait until 10:30 for the first bite of your evening meal is too much.
Impossible. But all the foreigners, like all the outside out there, are the same. All like the Scandinavians, the Balkan, they're the same. They eat before they go. Because they know they're going to be starving.
And a glass of wine is obviously part of the culture here. It's almost viewed as obligatory here.
Yeah, even before the game, the night before the game, you can have a glass of wine if you want.
Yeah.
But I'm that way. I'm like, I shouldn't be drinking wine before. I've never drank it before the game.
No.
Because I'm that way. Like, again, it's culture.
We associate drink with bevy and fun,
or non-professional.
Aye.
As well. Do you know what I mean? But they drink it as like because it gets the flavours and that, the food and that going. But they'll just drink one and then that's them. Whereas us Scots will need to have 4 or 5 to get the party started.
The truth is, I'm not giving away big secrets here, but you have one, you're like, second sounds brilliant. After the second, it could be 22.
Yeah, I know.
We've got a lot to learn culturally, I suppose.
But I've never, I just don't find it wrong, but I just could never sit and have a glass of wine knowing that I'm going to play a game the next game day.
So you've got a strong mentality then?
Yeah, I think so.
And focused.
I think so.
I mentioned Sunshine on Leith, and Andy Harbison is a socio. Hi Andy, thank you. He said, I was listening to the John McGinn podcast with Graham about that amazing Scottish Cup win with Hibs in 2016. Can Liam reflect on that day in his career and how it's continued to follow him, and which I suppose it has right up till just now? I said to John, who is a fantastic interview, and he's a hell of a character, and there's no question about that. It was end of season in Spain, and I don't know why that Saturday I didn't have a game. Maybe Spain had finished or whatever. I was watching on the TV at home in our little flat in Barcelona. I was so excited. I practically had my nose on the TV screen because it was one of those where I don't know how, but I had a sensation that the Hibs weren't done. And I'm not quite, it just felt like something was coming. Did it to you? What was that day like before the glorious crowning moments coming on? What was in your mind about I can turn this?
I had a wee bit like, so we played. Obviously, Rangers had won the league, and we played Rangers the 2 weeks before or something. The cup final, just It was one of the games where it was like dead rubber, and Stubbs played 3-5-2, and I was on the bench, and I was like, he's doing this for the cup final, and that was 3 weeks before.
You knew.
And even my dad says to me as well, I think, Liam, he's doing this for the cup final, so I don't think you're going to play in the cup final. And this was 2 weeks before. Bear in mind we had the playoff against Falkirk that we lost, and my dad's like, I don't think you're going to play in the cup final. And I'm like, what are you on about, surely? And then obviously...
Were you dealing with, how do you, because you don't strike me as a worrier, but I think it would have niggled at you.
100%, because it's a Hampden, and it would have been, because obviously I played in all the rounds before that. I would class myself as a big player for Hibs that season. Like, I played a lot of games. So when it was coming down to the last game in the cup final, and I was 95% sure I was on the bench, 95% sure. And but to be fair, I remember watching it back, and Gordon Strachan says a nice thing that obviously I would have been devastated as a young boy to be on the bench, but I've came on with the right attitude. But that's something that has changed as well in my perception of football, because before, when I was maybe... The coach puts out a team to win, he doesn't put a team to lose. So he's putting out the best players he thinks that's going to win that game.
Okay.
It's normal. So obviously in that instance, in his mind in the beginning of the game, I wasn't the best suited to win the game for him in that day, from the beginning. Okay. But before, I would blame everything else. I would blame the coach, I don't know, teammates, whatever. I would have a million things to blame rather than actually look at myself. Whereas then, the penny kind of dropped me. I was like, right, he's playing 3-5-2. Maybe he's trying to consolidate the game and then give it a go in the last 20, which I need to be ready. Which I need to be ready for the last half an hour, last 10 minutes, however long I get. So I need to be mentally prepared. And now, if I'm ever put on the bench, before there'd be negativity in my mind, like, oh, this is a shambles, like, how am I not playing, blah, 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 blah. It's positivity. It's like I'm in the right frame of mind to come on and be ready to impact the game always now. Which, I read one book, I can't remember the name. It was one guy, I'll need to get the name. One guy who was struggling, like his family moved from, I want to say, India, Afghanistan, whatever, when he was younger, to Birmingham or something like that. It's one city in England, and he was struggling, had no money, blah, 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 blah. And he became like big on social media, but through the power of just positivity. Like he was a dead negative thinker, and then one day it changed for him, clicked, and then he just thought positively. And it's hard to think positively all the time. Totally. But I've kind of put that in the way I live my life now is I just try and think positive all the time. Even if it's a bad situation, what's the positive of the bad situation? Like, how's it going to impact my future? So for me, coming on in that game, I was in the right frame of mind, whereas maybe before I would have been... Sensational. I would have been down, and I'd be like, nah, I'm not even going to...
I know a lot of players who'd have been like, I'm still pissed off at the coach. Yeah. And they might not say I'm going to sulk, but they nick about the pitch going like, yeah, you should have played me from the start. Whereas if you're like, there are 20, 30, 35, doesn't matter when you come on, minutes left for me to influence something. That's a hunger, and it's a very positive mentality. And I think that you talked about fate and kismet right at the beginning. Yeah. Sometimes there's a magnetism towards positivity. Yeah. And because you have that focus, because you've got that attitude, good things happen. Yeah. I think.
No, but this, like I says, it's obviously amazing. I hope Hibs do win the cup again for my brother, when my brother's playing. I hope that. But before my brother went, I was like, I hope the Hibs don't win for another 100 years. But now that he's there, I hope they win it as many times as possible.
Generous. That's pretty generous.
As many times as possible. But the connection I've got with Hibs is going to be there forever.
The corners, because you said earlier on that you've always, since you were young, practiced free kicks and corners.
I spoke about this before. I think it was for a guy who wrote a book about it. I spoke about this before. See, every Friday we done like set plays, and Stubbs, for whatever reason, I had to hit corners. So if that was us attacking corners or our defenders defending corners. So I was hitting it must have been about 30 corners every Friday.
It counts.
Give or take. 30 corners every Friday, and that was all year. I was hitting corners every Friday. So when it came to games, I was like, where do you want? Like, genuinely, it was feeling like, where do you want the ball? I can put the ball wherever you want it.
What a feeling.
Which was amazing. I've not got that feeling now because I don't hit as much as 30 corners every Friday. I should probably start again. But it was that feeling like I could put the ball wherever I wanted to put the ball in the box, I could put it. And obviously, all like again, fate. I don't know if it was true, but it came down to the 2 corners, and the 2 corners were on the money. I couldn't have placed it better with my hand, the ball.
It doesn't matter who I speak to, whether it's somebody who's a World Cup winner or you in play. To hear that phrase from a professional sports person is brilliant.
But see, to be fair, I always look at it, if it was one time, maybe you can say it was a fluke. But because it was 2 in the space of 10 minutes, you can't say it's a fluke.
Did you feel that the second goal was coming? The second goal from your corners, I mean.
Stokesy was unbelievable that day. Stokesy was a man possessed. He was frightening.
Maybe something to do with the opposition. I don't know, just guessing.
Maybe. But to be fair, for the 6 months before it wasn't that Stokesy was a wee bit give or take, but Stokesy had all the ability in the world.
He was a super player.
And he turned up on that day. We had a good team as well, Hibs. See, if you look at the team that we had then and what they're doing now and the players that we had, Dylan, for me, amazing player. McGeoch, McGinn, Cummins, who's in Australia, I keep in touch with him as well. So, no, we had a really good team, and connection with Hibs is going to be there forever.
Did it merit kissing your brother?
100%, aye.
100%. Now,
100%.
People say, was that a fluke? Was it pre-planned?
No, it was because they were sitting, so my mum and dad were in the box. They were in the prawn sandwich brigade seat, which I think they enjoyed at the end of the game, but it would have been eaten up at my mum and dad because they like to be in with not the riff-raff, but they like to be in
making a noise
and
getting
feel the game.
Any decent person does.
Feel the game. So they were up there, and obviously I had loads of friends, aunties, uncles, brothers. So they were a wee bit back, and the third goals went. Ewan's told me the third goals went in. And Jamie, who's my other brother, who's a wee bit more quiet, he's not as, he's quieter. And Jamie's told me as well, the third goals went in and Ewan's just took off. And he's like, where's he going? So he's took off to the corner, and I've fell on my, I've not even went to David Gray, I fell on my backside, going like that, kissed the badge or whatever, and then went to the crowd. But they're away to my left, all the other boys are away to my left. And I'm into the crowd, and I've looked up and I've seen Ewan. And I'm like, what is he doing here? How's he here? He's supposed to be up there. And I went to kiss him on the head, on the forehead, and he's went to kiss me on the head as well. And we just smacked lips. But I wish somebody had a video of it.
It's a funny little micro story, because when I'm watching, I can see how there's a chance before the 3-2 goal.
Stokesy with
the fans have a little run.
Step over in the left foot shot.
That's it. So there's a surge down. Because growing up in my era, at Hampden, whether it was for the Dandies or whether it was a Scotland game, you didn't move of your own volition if there was a goal. Yeah. Just like the whole mass of everybody moved, and it was dangerous now, we know, but you weren't in control of your movements. Yeah. So it wasn't quite that mad dense in the Hibs end, but there was this sort of torrent of bodies moving forward for the Stokes chance, and then they kind of went back up again. Yeah. But you knew that they were ready, and if the goal comes, it's just going to be bosh. There you are.
It was amazing.
And there was your brother.
It was amazing. I wish Jamie came down as well, so we could have celebrated the 3 years.
Or if he didn't come down, he could at least have got his phone out and filmed it.
But no, it was some summer as well after it. It was amazing. We never got promoted. We should have got promoted as well.
But the bus, what was it, 100 and something years? What was it for Hibs? Not
114, 114 years.
It's not bad, eh?
And when you think about the player, I always say as well, regarding the players who have played in Italy, that I'm in the kind of list with, I think about all the top greats that have played for Hibs who have never won the cup. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? In the 114 years, there's been hundreds of top players who have never had the chance to lift the cup with Hibs, and I'm obviously one of the very lucky few.
But you took fate in your own hands. Look, Liam, let's wrap with just a couple of quick subjects in that case. Yeah. It's difficult because, if you, depending on how you express yourself, there are very few times, in fact we've never had a negative media coverage out of any of our interviews. It's my perspective that I find it bewildering, we've talked on messaging about this, that you're not in the Scotland scene. Mm-hmm. Scotland's playing a slightly more considered brand of football now. Mm-hmm. There have been quite notable successes. Yeah. You've played before with John McGinn, so there's a natural kind of. I have no real understanding, and I don't see Steve Clarke, because I would ask him.
Yeah.
I have no real ability to get to him and say, well, what's in your thinking? One, I presume you do care. Two, what do you imagine you have to do? And three, is it clear to you why you're not, at minimum, called up into the squads? And be careful in your reply. Protect yourself, but I'm interested in the answers.
No, for me, it would mean the world to me to play with Scotland.
When you start playing football, you dream about playing for your national team. And I've spoken about it before, and I don't want to sound like a broken record constantly speaking, like when I do interviews or what.
I've asked the question because I want to know.
But do you know that way where I feel like in the interviews that I've done, I've expressed how I feel about Scotland. I can't put it in any other words, I was captain.
It is a big deal for you.
It is. I was captain
for the under-21s, etc., etc. Well, obviously we're strong in midfield. Like the majority of the players are playing in the Premier League. You've got Ryan Jack, who's top player, playing for Rangers Europa League final. Callum McGregor, who's the captain of Celtic as well. It's a tough position to get in, but I feel like I should be considered. I feel like I should be in consideration. I feel like I should have at least made a few squads. But I don't know. Maybe I'll need to start scoring some more goals. Obviously, there's so much more I can improve on in my game. Still relatively young, still learning the game, and there's a lot I can improve on.
I think being part of a side that's comfortably stayed in Serie A, being part of a side that's taking points off Juventus and Fiorentina and Lazio and run Inter close, and I would imagine that accumulated. It's not I was fishing for something, but a season in Serie A is perceptibly different success than maybe leading Verona up from Serie B or being because consistently you've been in the playoffs in Serie B. Playoff system that I never understand, because I see you drawing away, and you still go out. It's like, what the what is going on?
I know.
But that would seem to me to be that, in general, I can't speak for Steve Clarke, but if a Scot is holding down a position of massive responsibility in a Serie A team, then that, to me, if the beginning of this season holds to last season, that has to then be producing, indisputable evidence that you need to be part of the Scotland scene, in my opinion. Serie A is a massive leap from Serie B.
No, of course. It's one of the top 5 leagues in the world. If you're talking about this coefficient stuff, it's the top 5. It's the top 5 as well. So hopefully, I would, like I've said, I would love to play for Scotland. I hope Steve Clarke can come out and at least watch a few games, and then he can have.
You could describe Puglia to him.
He can watch me live, and if he's.
Could you set up chicken arrabbiata for him if you wanted it?
If he wanted that,
it's possible.
I could set it up. Right, I could set that. But it'd be a dream, because obviously as well to get back home and play in front of Scottish fans and that, because I've not done it for 4 or 5 years now. So to get back home and play in front of Hamden and that would be amazing. Like you say, it's hopefully my wee brother can kick on as well, and maybe we can play together.
Pair of you holding the midfield for Scotland as we beat England and qualify for the Euros in Germany.
That'd be a dream.
What's left for you now, if you look at maybe a career that might give you 8, 9, 10 more big years, let's say, but you're a top footballer, brilliant attitude, physically, you're lucky, you've got good conditions. What would you like to achieve?
My personal goals regarding my career is probably arrive at the elite level, the Europa League, Champions League, a team that's competing in that every year. That's, for me, is my goal, is to arrive at that level and play at that. Because I'm 26, I'm going at my peak year, so I feel like if it's going to happen, I'm going to time it perfectly regarding that. So that's my goal, to be playing at the elite level, be playing in the Champions League, like hear the Champions League music every year as well. I was lucky enough to be a part of it at Celtic, so I obviously played for a huge club in Celtic, and once you get the small taste, you're in and around the match day, it's something that spurs me on, to get to that elite level, Europa League, Champions League, be competing in Europe, be competing for titles as well, be competing for league titles, cups, whatever it is.
Is the natural place to do that maybe England? Or
potentially, I've always obviously watching Match of the Day, soccer, Super Sunday with Neville, Roy Keane. You know, I've always said I would love to go and play in the Premier League for the fact that the potentially Roy Keane analysing one of my games, whether it's good or bad. Because obviously him being a midfielder, I'd love to get the analysis of these top... I'm always interested in...
You soak up details, do you?
Yeah, I'm always interested in what these players, guys like yourself who have operated at the highest level of what you do, I've seen so much football, always value their opinion on how they see me as a player. Whether it's they like me as a player, whether it's he's alright, he's average, or whether or not he's hopeless. Because I always look for like feedback about how I can improve and how I can make myself a better person and a player. So that's important. For like feedback from other people it's not the be all and end all, but I like to understand what other people see how I play the game and see my perception of the game as to where I can improve. It's important for me that. Obviously playing for the national team is very, very important, and I spoke with my agent about maybe doing, if possible, 1 year in a South American country to play.
Because of this attraction you feel
for this attraction, the fact that the footballers that come through there are just, for me, are amazing.
They're ferocious.
Yeah.
Well, I would back you to be able to achieve it. You might find certain parts of South American football a little bit more chaotic in here and less well organised and odd would be what the players that come over to Europe tell us. Spain, please don't discard Spain.
No, Spain.
Love to see you in
no,
the
La Liga's been a league that, again, for my style of football.
You watched a lot of it growing up, eh?
Yeah. I would love to play in England. Love to play in England. I would also love to play in Spain as well. Because I watched, like I said to you before, I watched it religiously, me and my brothers. And there was a bit of rivalry because me and my brothers were Barcelona, and then like I go back to my dad again. Because we like Barcelona, he would always go Real Madrid.
Well, it's not like an outsider team he's back in there. It's not like calling it lads, but Levante are much better than Barca.
But we would get, especially Jamie. Jamie, we would all get emotional, but Jamie, my middle brother, he's interested in the coaching side as well. Like he's interested in the analysis side. He loved Barcelona. Loved Messi, just loved the way they play. So he would get dead like worked up. See if Real Madrid were winning and my dad was just he'd get wound up.
Was your dad like poking at him deliberately?
100%. Imagine Jamie's like, how can you like Real Madrid, the tactic? But obviously every team is different. But it was when it was Guardiola and Mourinho, it was head to head, it was proper like... That was polarising for everybody. It was unbelievable. And Jamie's like, how can you like a team that's want to play like that? They're leaving the grass long, they're wrecking the pitch.
You knew about that, did you? Yeah. Paul Burgess was the groundsman and he rowed with Mourinho because for Paul it was like Madrid above everything else. He's a real Madridista. Yeah. Came from Arsenal, proud Englishman, now working in pitch consultancy for UEFA and down in Monte Carlo as well. But he argued Mourinho, that's not football, you can't be Mourinho. Like, grow it like a jungle, slow them down.
See me, I love Mourinho, love Guardiola, I just love football. Yeah. Like anything to do with football, I watch.
Well, one of the things Guardiola says is that all approaches to football are respectable. I've got mine, but he's got like you an open view that if that's how you want to do it, then fine. It's not my way, and I'll never change.
I love Mourinho as well because see as well we played on.
I'd love to be able to feel like you do about him, but I've seen too much up close.
He's one of these. He's Hollywood. He is. Yes, 100%.
Oh, right, if he's one of the old bounders in the old Hollywood films, because he's a cad, man.
I love him. I think he's brilliant. See, especially after I watched All or Nothing, the Tottenham I loved him even more. But see, when we played Roma at home, they were 4-0 up after like 20 minutes. I had no idea what was going on. I was like, how is this possible? And we scored.
Pellegrini, of course.
We scored. I don't think he played. He was injured. We scored 2 goals quick in the second half, 4-2, and we were like, I was like, we're going to 4-4. And then Mourinho done an interview after the game, and they were like, the interview asked him a question like, first half was amazing, second half you conceded 2 goals. He says, yeah. If we went and scored another 4 goals in the second half, people would have turned off the TV. We let them score 2 goals, so people would continue to watch the game.
See, this is where we're different, because you found that funny. I'd be like trying to find him in the stadium afterwards, like, aye, right, so you did.
I know.
He's tremendous value, I will admit. And the thing that bugs me is that he came into football like a typhoon. That ideas were special. He made a difference. Also, his bond with the players if you talk to any of them that worked with
love
him,
it.
particularly in the early years, they felt 6 foot taller, not 6 foot tall, and they felt inspired, and it was like a sort of Cosa Nostra loyalty to. When he was pumped at Chelsea the first time, Drogba was in tears. No. What's going on, big man? It's a coach, it's football. There'll be another one come along, but it was a cult, and to the benefit of everybody who joined the cult at that stage. And then I watched him, and now he tosses a lot of people out of off the side of the boat if it's not going well. And I don't like that in life. I particularly seeing as he was capable of the others, ultra loyalty and ultra inspiration, because we talked about, like you talked about, the manager being solely in charge here, and no little squad of players saying, listen, boss, listen, do us a favour. So when I listen to leaders in sport, but particularly in football, the power to convince now is much more important than power. Yeah. Because if you have power but you don't convince, you'll lose that power. Yeah. It's a guarantee. Yeah. If you convince now, because footballers in general, particularly as we go, to the Champions League, they're multi-millionaires, and they're like, quite often they can say, I'll wait you out. I'll wait you out, no problem at all. I'll still be here. Yeah. You won't. And therefore his ability to convince, which I think he's diluted, I think the whole pantomime, not just success, I think his own pantomime got to him a little bit and undermined him. Yeah, so it disappoints me, because I'd like to feel, because the enthusiasm, as soon as we're back on him, you're smiling, I'd love to feel that way about him. I would.
I know, but I was maybe a wee bit the same as you when I was at Chelsea. It was like, I know what you mean, it was everybody against them. Do you know what I mean? But as I've got older, I've came to appreciate him, I think, much more than I did when I was younger. Much more.
Well, he's doing well at Roma. Yeah. You're doing superbly at Empoli. I'm really glad that you're an occasional listener to the big interview. Yeah. I'm very, very glad that you were our guest. Thank you very much. Just in case anybody's under any misapprehension, Liam arrived first, opened up the door of the building we're in, made us look like semi-pros, really. He's Juventus, we're Foggia. It's been educational. You're a special guy. Nicky comes out of this quite well. I don't know if he gave you a script or...
He's been a big... So's my mum. I can't give my mum Fiona as well, but my dad's been...
There are phrases you've used about what he's said and done for you that stand out to me as a parent. You aspire to do.
You know what I'm sad though? I'm sad the fact he never went into management. I've always said that to him. But he says that I had 3 boys and I would have rather coached yous, went and took yous everywhere and seen yous grow up and play. Because he got offered the job as soon as he retired. He was still in Albion.
But there's another phrase that shows him in a great light, because when the choice came for you, whether it was Southend or Bari, he said, son, go, you can always come back. Turning down a career option that patently, both his mind and his attitude, sound to me to be perfect. Scottish football, it sounds like, would have benefited from having Nicky Henderson as a coach or a director of football or whatever it might be. But he made a big choice for the right reasons, and look what his choice has yielded.
To be fair though, we did make a deal when I was back home that when I become a manager, he's going to be my sporting director. So it's all right.
Then can't wait to see your dad in a sporting director. Hope that it doesn't come for a long time, because you've got many, many more years of Europa League, Champions League, and hopefully trophy lifting in front of you.
Fingers crossed.
From the big interview, moltissimo grazie. È stato bene.
Prego.